Hello everyone and Happy New Year! So today I am finally back to kind of recap my first 12-week year that I've published here on YouTube and kind of talking about overall in general how the year went and then setting some intentions and goals for my next 3 months/12-week year now that we are into 2023, which is really mind-blowing for me. Like, it feels like it's not a real year. It's kind of one of those in-between years in my mind. But kind of exciting, new stuff, and more importantly, kind of setting up the system so that I can succeed and also learn from the mistakes that I made in my last 12-week year, which I definitely did make some mistakes. So yeah, let's just get into it. So, quick recap on what my first 12-week year was. There were a couple different goals I had, two of which were related to kind of medical stuff. So, one being preparation for step one, which is actually at this point still ongoing, and I'm going to actually be taking it in March now. And then also trying to finish up a research project that I've been working on for quite a while at this point. So, really interesting project, but has had various delays and still not quite to the point where there's a finished manuscript. So that, and then just the fact that I have had a couple different research projects kind of hanging around that I'm really I feel like I'm so close to finishing, but I really just need to push to get the last bit done, has been really weighing on me. And I honestly feel a fair bit of kind of shame and this is just not who I am and all of that stuff. So that's definitely been I guess a fail on my first 12-week year, and there's a couple lessons that I wanted to share from that when it comes to kind of the academic preparation and the research stuff, which is probably the hardest and the heaviest lift of all of the different goals that I had. A couple things related to research is that when, at least for me as a medical student, it is so easy to lose time, and also to, when I'm putting in the hours that I put on my calendar, it just feels like I'm not making enough progress. So I need to be more efficient about how I'm using my time when I am doing my research, and also kind of pushing forward more on the writing aspects, because that is, I think, what's keeping me right now, because every single time there's like a little tweak that you could make to the analysis, but really almost everything's done, you just need to write it. So my lesson there is really to be very intentional when it comes to research in medical school. First of all, I think it's better to finish projects, obviously, but what I'm trying to say is that whereas in undergrad, maybe you could be juggling more and multiple projects with similar timelines, with medical school, I would say that it's a bit of a heavy lift. So focus on one at a time and kind of finishing things in sprints, and then starting your next project, because it gets really hectic and it can be very exciting when you're starting projects, but every time you say no, you're saying yes to what you're currently having on your plate. And a quote that I really like that's related to this is that the best referral, and this is in the context of business but applies to pretty much everything in life, the best referral is the work that's on your desk. So do the work that you already have well before you get too excited about looking at the next thing, and kind of wanting to expand before you've even really done a good job or finished on your current project. So that was a tough lesson for me. It really does hurt to not have completed and submitted everything at that point. But I am not gonna give up. I'm not going to be disheartened. I just have to get it done. So that is that for the research component. And then for step study, I think it's going reasonably well. However, some definite modifications that I would make is one, I think that I really needed a more comprehensive passive study resource. So mainly what I've been doing for studying for STEP is I do UWorld practice questions, which are very gold standard for people to use, as well as using the OnKing deck. However, I definitely felt when I'm taking practice tests that I feel like my knowledge is way too piecemeal. I definitely want to have kind of a one-stop shop resource that is very detailed and kind of gives me all the information, because, for example, even in Boards and Beyond, I would say, which is probably seen as the best kind of video third-party resource, at least to my knowledge, I felt like things were not necessarily going into the level of depth that are asked on MBME. So for example, they might tell you about a certain like rare lysosomal storage disease, but you're not getting to the level of, okay, so it's this gene mutation and that's causing, this change with transcription, and that's why they have these kind of clinical features. And yeah, so I just need to get to that point. And so if people have any recommendations for me on their favorite resources or how I could be using the third-party resources that I am better, I would definitely appreciate that. I'm definitely going to do some more research on this so that I can integrate that into like more passive study plus the active forms that I'm already doing. So yeah, there's that. Now on to some positive news. For the kind of non-academic goals that I had, I feel like I really did crush it. I did do well. So the two non-academic goals that I had were, one, I wanted to finish my beginner Spanish course, which I did, and I finished early, and I feel like nowadays I can kind of hold basic conversation, albeit in kind of broken Spanish. It's been really nice to be able to use that in a way that feels like it is like directly helping people, because that was kind of like the point of doing this, so I can talk to patients. So that was really awesome in terms of my progress on this goal, and so want to at least maintain that level. So I'm keeping my kind of like iPhone language in Spanish, and obviously when I'm on the wards I'm going to be using like a lot of Spanish because we have a lot of Spanish speaking patients. So that is a really big positive, and I'm happy about that. So that is on my language learning. And then finally, in terms of my fitness goals. So a goal that I had related to fitness was to improve my mile time. And so I was able to do that from, like, originally I had been plateauing for a really long time at around a 12-minute mile, which is very slow, and I'm still slow, but I was able to improve that to, I think, around an 8.5-minute mile. But then once I reached that point, I wanted to focus more on distance running because that's really kind of what I'm interested in anyway. So that's kind of how I've been switching up my exercise routine after I hit that goal. And I think it's really important to like be able to pivot like that. Like, you did set one goal and, like, let's say you technically achieved it, but it doesn't mean that you try and just keep going. And like, if I were to improve my mile time to, like, I don't know, a 6-minute mile or something like that, that'd be great. But if I have to run 13 miles, it's kind of like a moot point. Like, I really need to just improve over like longer distances and be able to take on like kind of longer runs basically. So that's how I kind of modified that. And then the other thing being that originally as part of this I was doing a lot of zone 2 training, and some of you may have heard of the 80-20 rule when it comes to endurance sports, whether it's like running or biking. And I do still, like, I see the science behind that, but after having done it for a couple months of like probably like a very rudimentary form of zone 2 80-20 training, where I was literally just doing 80% of just, let's say I'm going like almost like a little under 4 miles per hour on the treadmill for like an hour, and then like 20% of the time I'm doing kind of fartlek style like hit runs. So that is like speed work that I felt like I was doing a little bit of, but I just felt like the way that I was doing zone 2 training, or the way I was just training for the runs, was not optimal. So for this year, one of the big things that I'm excited about is that I feel like I've really revamped my kind of exercise routine, where I have cadence training on like a certain day of the week, and then I have like a hill day. So that way I can train like different aspects of my running and kind of improve my technique overall. Whereas I felt like, just kind of being on the treadmill at like a single speed and all of that stuff was not doing it for me. And it was especially frustrating because I was making gains in my strength training more so than in my running, it felt. So yeah, just kind of like after testing things for a predetermined amount, obviously these kinds of improvements do not happen overnight, but after I've been doing it, I feel like I was doing it for almost 6 months and not really seeing like too much improvement. It's definitely a time to experiment. So that's what I'm doing now, and I'm really excited for that. Now, I wanted to talk to you all about what my 3 month goals are going to be for January through March. And I am filming this again on a different day because I just felt like the footage that I originally filmed was not really what I wanted in order to be helpful for you all. So, I want to talk about what my process was for deciding on these goals first, because I feel like that's really the start of everything is why are we setting goals even in the first place, and how do we set good goals? So, the first question I ask myself is how do you want to shine this year? How do you really want to kind of bloom and basically become a better and different version of yourself than who you are right now? So that was the first question. And the second question was, what are the things that I'm not doing right now that I know would change my life for the better? So those two questions together were very helpful for me in deciding my goals for this next 12 weeks. So definitely for the first part, I really just want to be the best medical student I can be right now. That is the overarching number one goal. And it's interesting to me because I feel like a lot of times the secondary goals can get in the way of what we want to be our biggest priority. So that's definitely something I'm keeping in mind. And the other thing is that what it looks like to be the best medical student I can be is different kind of depending on the season. And what I mean by that is, for example, right now I'm in dedicated period, and so the big challenge that I have is basically making sure that I'm able to get enough studying done every day, and also that I am kind of studying or training in the ways that are the most high yield, you could say, or basically are giving me the most preparation, the best preparation for when I go onto the wards. And then once rotations start, it's going to be kind of a different ball game because I'm basically working in the hospital every day, and so there's like lots of different factors. It's very different from just studying at my desk all day. So there's kind of different strategies that need to be adapted for kind of each season. And I would say that in the current season I'm in for January to March with studying for STEP, that time blocking is really the way that I am planning to kind of overcome this challenge and make sure that I'm able to look back and be happy with kind of the amount of work that I put in and the kind of work that I put in. Additional stuff that I'm really thinking about right now is basically what are the different ways that I can study like a physician. So, what I mean by that is trying to take any material that comes my way and look at what the clinical ramifications of that are. So, in the preclinical years, for example, you learn a lot about, let's say, like a rare disease. And about that disease, you might learn various kind of seemingly disparate pieces of information, but you want to kind of take the information, integrate it together into like what you can call an illness script or just like a packet of information. So that way you can think about, okay, what are the medications that I might use? What are different kind of variable signs of this disease that I should look out for that are different from the norm? How does this look in, different patient populations? And maybe there are certain cases where I shouldn't use vancomycin because they have like an allergy or something like that. So those are the kinds of things that I want to start kind of doing the rounds in my brain so that I can get used to thinking that way, because that's really how we're going to be using this knowledge once we're on the wards. So trying to take things, I guess, to a more actionable level and also integrating information together is really a goal that I have. And so a couple strategies that I'm thinking about in terms of that is one, to actually be doing more Feynman method studying. So the Feynman method, like basically you can sum it up as trying to teach to learn, and that is another great form of active learning that is also very similar to the kinds of conversations that you're going to be having once you're on rotations, because your attending is going to be asking you questions, your resident's going to be asking you questions, you're going to have questions, and so you want to be able to converse in the language of medicine or regardless of what field you're in, you want to kind of simulate conditions that are similar to kind of when you're in prime time and it's time to perform. Now, on to the second question, which is what am I not doing that basically I know I should be doing? I had three that basically came to mind instantly, and I think that's really the point of this question is to like think about what in your subconscious mind just bubbles to the surface naturally. The point of it is not to make you write down a list of 10 things that you think you should be doing, but more so to get at what are the biggest levers that you can turn to really be changing your life. So I would definitely say that if you try to answer this question yourself, to keep it short. So what do you feel in your gut that you really like, I need to do this in order to change my life? So for me, those three things were one, getting in consistent 5 hours of research every week. I feel like I talk about this every single video, but also using that time wisely and once again, trying to pull the biggest levers in order to, be productive and achieve my goals. The second thing was to be posting on YouTube and social media every week. I know that this is the kind of thing where it snowballs, I'm going to get better the more that I do it, the more that I put things out there, and I'm going to get more comfortable and be able to kind of put out more of the content that I feel like I really want to share with you all and want to be helping you all with. For one thing, I would really love to delve more into the kind of health and wellness side of things with my YouTube channel here, but I haven't done that yet. And so I want to do a better job of, kind of like planning out scripts and also just making content that's going to be truly useful and helpful in the world the way that I want to, in the way that in my head I am envisioning. So that is one thing with YouTube, and that is also going to be something that I am time blocking now every week on Saturdays. And finally is to get 30 minutes a day of Japanese practice. So I am kind of transitioning now that I have my basics in Spanish, and also because my partner and I are interested in doing a gap year abroad in Japan to like really seriously learn Japanese. And so one thing that we are doing for that is to only speak Japanese during dinner time. And it's going to definitely be a challenge because I would consider myself like a very basic level of Japanese. But kind of getting that active practice and integrating it into our daily lives is like a really important thing, I think, especially when it comes to language learning. So those were the three levers that I feel like I really need to be pulling this next 12 weeks and would really basically make a difference with just a little bit more effort on my part and a little bit more planning and discipline integrating it into my week. So I'm very curious what your answers are to these questions and what your goals are for this year or for this next 3 months. So please feel free to share those in the comments, and I wish you all a great day, rest of your week, and a happy new year. So see you soon. Bye.